Here it is. Yeah, I've got it. I even looked at it.
Wondered how vital
I've got some highlights here. Yeah, I'm on top of it. Maybe. Maybe.
Street plat. Chimney overlay.
Okay.
What was the capital price for that overlay? What was the CIP? A lot.
Oh, I don't. Well,
Budgeted for.
I don't know what it was budgeted for. Is it? I don't know if that's in there. That
I
should be.
didn't see anything in there.
I haven't had time to go home.
I seen when I seen the
We can let Brian address it. His comment was, this project is not an FY
1 minute.
'22 budget, will be included in the FY '22.
Mayor, you gotta watch Andrew, he's quiet. He
Who
held
we-
up the 1 minute finger.
Oh,
Oh, boy, already.
Karen kind of. She's kind
she'd
of.
holler at you.
She'll yell at you.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. Thanks. I'm glad
30
somebody.
seconds.
Maybe, you know,
Thanks, Tom.
might not hurt to remind the audience.
Those are
too.
words I've used on you a couple of times, but yeah,
We can probably remind everybody to speak one at a time.
I will.
Like you said, you never bring that up again.
Well, there's always the next time. I can't see. Let me know.
Oh, we're live.
Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
Before I ask Teresa to take the roll call, I'd like to just make an announcement to the people viewing tonight, and that is we have 3 councilmen who are participating via phone. Hopefully there will not be a delay in their responses or anything like that, but please bear with us just in case there is a delay. So at this point, Teresa, roll call, please.
Nelson?
Here.
Orison?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Wunschel?
Here.
Hanson?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
And Balk.
Here.
Okay. There is no update from community outreach tonight, so item 4 on the agenda is the consent agenda. Item A is a motion to approve City Council minutes of January 17, 2022. There are no licenses to approve. C is a motion to approve residential tax abatement application for Adam and Mindy Gress, 916 West 10th Street, IGL Construction LLC, 3201 West 3rd Street, 3202 West 3rd Street, 3205 West 3rd Street, 3206 West 3rd Street, 3209 West 3rd Street, 3210 West 3rd Street, 3211 West 3rd Street, 3212 West 3rd Street, 3213 West 3rd Street, and 3214 West 3rd Street, all subject to review by the Clay County Council Assessor. Item D is a resolution authorizing permanent transfer of funds of budgeted transfers for the month ending January 31st, 2022. And E is a motion to approve the Certified Local Government Annual Report for the Spencer Historic Preservation Commission. Motion made by Tom,
I'll second it.
seconded by Ron. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying.
Oh, we need a roll.
Oh, we need a
on
roll
this one,
call.
please.
I'm sorry. Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison?
Aye.
Balk?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5, old business. Item A is an ordinance amending Title IX, Chapter 9, Section 3, and Title IX, Chapter 9A, Section 3, to amend development regulations in E and E1 heavy industrial zoning districts. This is the final filing.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Donovan,
I'll second.
seconded by Tracy. Any discussion? If not, please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison.
Aye.
Balk.
Aye.
Reed.
Motion carries. Item B is an ordinance amending Title IX, Chapter 2, Chapter 8, Chapter 9, and Chapter 9A of the City Code to provide for the use classification of data center, final filing.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Donovan, seconded by Tom. Any discussion? Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison.
Aye.
Balk.
Aye.
Reed.
Item 5C, an ordinance establishing the City of Spencer 7th Avenue Southwest Sanitary Sewer District and establishing sanitary sewer connection fees in the district, and this is the final filing.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Tracy, second by Tom. Any discussion? Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison. Balk.
Aye.
Reed.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, we have item 6. We have a couple of public hearings tonight. 6A is a public hearing on plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2022 WWTP driveway replacement project. I now declare the public hearing open. Are there any written comments against?
We have none.
Any oral comments against? Any written comments in favor of?
We have none.
Any oral comments in favor of? I declare the public hearing now closed. 6A1 is a resolution finally approving and confirming plans, specification, and form of contract for the 2022 WWTP driveway replacement project.
I'll make a motion on that, Mayor.
Motion made by Ron,
Second.
second by Bill. Any discussion? Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison.
Aye.
Balk.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 6A2 is to review the bids received on February 4th, 2022 for the 2022 WWTP driveway replacement project by project engineer Cruz Caton Nelson. And I see Jim has already gotten to the podium.
I'm here. Good evening.
And just a comment, Jim, for our councilmen who are on the phone, please speak right into the mic and they'll hear you much better.
I will do that.
Thank you.
So you should have a bid tabulation sheet for the project that we bid last Friday. We received 3 bids, DeLoss Construction from Spencer, Becca Excavating from Spirit Lake, and Holstein Excavating from Edgerton. The low bidder was DeLoss Construction. The project included a base bid, which is the replacement of most all of the pavements out there, the driveway pavement, and then the parking lot, the bigger parking lot. And then we took an alternate to do some work on the gravel driveway along the north side. There's kind of a teardrop truck turnaround there. That Public Works indicated that if it works out, they'd like to improve that. So we took bids on that alternate. So when you see the base bid up above and the alternate, that's what that's all about. Bids were favorable. We would like to recommend that you go ahead and award the project, the base bid, and include the alternate with the understanding that more than likely will reduce some of the work in that alternate. But because we've got another contractor out there working on the plant site, they're kind of working in that area of the alternate, so we got to see what condition that's in when we're done, how much material they have left over, whether we need to go in there and do much on that project. But we can always cut it out, but we can't add it later. So that's why we added it here. So our estimate, including the alternate, was $442,058, and DeLoss's bid was $451,350, or 102% of the estimate, including that alternate. And so we would recommend award to DeLoss Construction in the amount of $451,350.
Hey, Jim, is there anything, does it make any sense, or is it just too much of a mess to, say, award the base to DeLoss, but yet the secondary to Beck? I mean, that's quite a difference in crushed concrete there. I mean,
Yeah, it is. That's
huge.
why I'm recommending that, or indicating that the work will probably change. But no, we can't cherry pick who we award to, Don. If that's really a legal question, but, all right, it's still that way, right? We can't award part of it to one contractor and part of it to another.
well, I thought maybe you could, because it was I don't know how the secondary is legally tied in, so I'm
Right.
just asking the question.
It is tied in, it wasn't bid separately, so
Okay.
that isn't an available option.
And it's possible, Tom, that we could do some of that surfacing in-house. So when we get to that stage of the project, we're going to take a good hard look at that.
Any other questions for Jim?
Yeah, the current project that's going out there right now, how much of the getting it back to way it was are they having to do, the general that's out there now? Because like if he's tearing up that road or rutting it or the area, he
Right,
needs to get it back to,
right. And I don't see any problem there. They'll restore it. What we were going to do is build it up with excess material that we generate. They've also have excess material that they've generated. Some of that could be used. They could do theirs first, and then we will use ours to fill in the borrow hole. So one of those materials has to go there. It just kind of depends on who gets there first. But I don't have their contract details, Donovan, so I don't know what's all in their contract, but they've got big dirt piles all over. They indicate that they'll be out of there in June, so we'll work with them when we get to that stage, see where we're at.
if they're out in June, when is this project looking at starting?
I don't know yet. We bid it Friday. We haven't had a pre-con. We don't, you
Okay.
know. But
Like after them, or are they gonna, are
More,
you,
more than likely, we kind of looked at staging. Most of their work comes in from the north side, so we don't really overlap sites too bad. We're the driveway, so we're right up all the way around the plant, so we'll have it all tore up and fairly inaccessible. But most of their work is done they're working on clarifiers, they don't have the equipment in, but all of that'll come in from the north side and not through our driveway. But we'll coordinate that once we have a pre-con.
Okay, are there any questions by any of you who are participating by phone?
None here, Steve.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
I've got a question for
Jim,
Brian.
or Ron?
Where does this, in the budget, or the planning, was this the whole overall development of the wastewater treatment plant? Was this part of the package, or how, where is the funding from this coming?
This has been a CIP identified
Right,
project. It's coming from the wastewater reserves.
okay. And what was the CIP numbers? I didn't see anything on there. That was what kinda,
Well, because when I filled it out, I was in Des Moines, so I
Oh.
didn't have my numbers in front of me. It's 539, 540 is the budget in the CIP,
Okay.
including engineering.
We see Mark White coming
To the-
to the mic, so
Rescue
looks
to
like
Brian.
he's got some numbers.
Not to the rescue, but just the numbers.
I
And,
didn't
you know,
say the rescue.
Like Brian said, he was in Des Moines working on his phone, and I had him written down, so I had, FY '22, 67,825 just for engineering and design. And, for FY '23, it was, 593,734. So we had a total of 661,559. So we're
Okay.
way under the,
Wow.
budgeted amount, so.
and
It
and I don't
was-
think the concrete's going down, so.
Well, we
I
were
think-
happy to see that because it's pretty unpredictable times right now, so we were
Exactly.
relieved to have that come in under the budget.
Right. All right, that's kinda, I didn't see anything on that, so that's what I wanted to hear, so, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, we have two possible things that we can now do. We can either table the action awarding the contract, or I would entertain a motion to award the contract to DeLoss Construction.
I'll make a motion that we award,
I'll make that motion to award the contract.
Okay, motion made by Lauren,
award it to, DeLoss Construction, so I just want to recommend that, I'm happy to see that it's a local contractor. It's awful nice when we see our local contractors getting the bids.
and that would have been a second by Ron, I believe.
that's
Okay,
right.
okay, with a comment, okay.
With
All right.
the alternates?
With the,
Yes, with it.
and Lauren, that was with the alternate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion?
The only thing I'd have to say is I'd like to, I'm in favor of awarding it with the alternate, but I would also like to see if there are some deductions on the alternate like you talked about, to try and get that a little bit lower if possible. And I know you really can't tell until the other project is probably done, so.
Okay. Point well taken. Any other discussion? Not, please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison,
Aye.
Bulk,
Aye.
and Reed.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the resolution carries and the award is to DeLoss Construction. Okay, item 6B is a public hearing on plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the 2022 HMA overlay project. I declare the public hearing now open. Are there any written comments against?
We have none.
Any oral comments against? Any written comments in favor of?
We have none.
Any oral comments opposed or in favor of? I declare the public hearing now closed. 6B1 is a resolution finally approving and confirming plans, specifications, and form of contract for the 2022 HMA overlay project.
Make that motion.
Motion made by Donovan, Second by Tracy.
No, Tom.
Or Tom.
Either.
Okay.
Tracy's kinda shy.
Okay.
tonight. It was Tom.
Okay, guys, all kinds
It's hard, it's hard
Yeah.
for me to hear it between those two.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Yeah. Now, please vote by machine.
Nelson, I, Larson, I, Wunschel, I, Hanson, I, Orison,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bulk.
Aye.
The resolution carries. Item 6B2 is to review the bids received February 3rd, 2022 for the 2022 HMA overlay project by project engineers Cruz, Caton, Nelson, and Jim.
Good evening again. I believe this bid tab came in your packet. We took bids on Thursday for the HMA overlay project, and that's the overlay of existing concrete streets kind of in the St. Luke's Hill area. We received one bid from Blacktop Service Company. Their bid was $275,963.80, and that was 94.5% of our estimate, which was $292,146. Everything looks good, and we would recommend award to Blacktop Service Company in the amount of $275,963.80.
Jim, is that the same company that did Fourth
Yes,
Street?
around here nowadays, that's the only game in town.
Is that right?
For small urban projects, that's the case. I mean, there's others that will be doing like county work, but they want to do miles at a time, not
Yeah.
blocks, so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Jim on the bids?
Is this part of the CIP or is this got some other grant resources too?
Nope, this is strictly CIP.
Okay, Mark? What do we have in it for the CIP?
325.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Okay, I would entertain a resolution awarding the contract for the 2022 HMA overlay project or tabling the contract.
I'll make a motion to
Bill,
Okay, motion made by Bill,
to do what?
approve, to accept, correct, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah, to award the contract. Is there a second? Second by Tracy. Any discussion? Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I, Larson, I, Wunschel, I, Hanson, I, Orison, Bulk,
Aye.
Reed.
Okay, contract is awarded. Okay, item 7, under new business. 7A is a resolution approving contract and performance bond for the 2022 Drainage District Number 47 Outlook Project with Corey Jurgens Construction for $31,503.50.
I'll make a motion on that, Mayor.
Motion made by Ron, and I couldn't tell who got the second. Lauren, second.
Correct.
Any discussion?
When will this project start, or are we, and what can we expect?
I spoke with Corey Jurgens this afternoon, and he said probably in March sometime. He wants just the right amount of frost, which we weren't sure we knew exactly how much that was, but Not so much that there's large chunks to dig, but enough that it helps hold up the machine.
Okay.
And so they'll go through there in March. They'll probably do the excavation work. He may not be able to knock down the spoil pile and smooth it out, if there are frozen chunks. But he wants to kind of go from this project into, I think he has the intake rehabilitation project with us, that work. And I know he's got some other private work in town, so he'll just kind of move right into those jobs after this one.
Will there be any inconvenience to citizens? There shouldn't be anything.
No.
It should all
No.
be
No,
Okay.
none of it's,
on,
if you're in the Stubb Johnson Equestrian Park, there
Right.
will be some inconvenience along that edge, but that's the only thing.
that's the only thing
Yeah.
that's gonna affect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison,
Aye.
Bulk,
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7B is a motion to approve commercial recycling agreement with Shine Brothers Corporation effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
I'll make a motion on that, Mayor.
Motion made by Ron. Second by Donovan. Any discussion?
Mark, could you give us just an update on how this has been working? I know we've been with Shines for, has it been 6 years now, or 4 or 6 years, right?
Can't remember off the top of my head. But, Shine Brothers Corporation processes our cardboard and bales it, so the commercial truck takes the loads down there, we scale them in, scale them out, and then they bale it and then market it on our behalf. There's a yellow sheet that it's called in the recycling world. That's basically what it's based on, kind of the Board of Trade type number. So in last year, for just kind of an idea of scope, for 1 year, the cardboard sales were $125,867, and the amount to process through Shine Brothers was $99,464. So by the time you figure the increase, and if the commodities, and if the volume stays relatively close, it should be pretty close to a wash on the cardboard. Keep in mind that we do have a moratorium on OCC, which is old corrugated cardboard at the landfill. We don't want it there. Any load over more than 10% is rejected, so this is kind of bolstering our own initiative. So,
Right.
and it is the most recyclable product, would be cardboard, so. Public Works recommends approval.
All right, thank you, Mark, for the update.
Any other questions? Comments?
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes.
I may.
Sure, Brian.
Mark, could you give me an understanding of, when they market it, I guess, I see the cost per ton, but what's the going rate per ton? I mean, is it not our concern, I guess, or?
Well,
I see a note here that, the agreement contains no clause to deal with a reduction in price. So what's the potential for that to take place?
I certainly can't outguess the commodity market. That can be kind of a wild ride once in a while. But hopefully, to shed a little light, Brian, January 21 it was $65 a ton, and December 21 it was $180 a ton. So there's a pretty wide swing in there. I did not go and average what the amount was per year, or for the whole year, but it held steady above $100 a ton. So I can't predict, but consistent. I guess I can't be consistent. We can guarantee that it's not consistent. So,
No, I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 7C is a resolution awarding contract for the 2022 sidewalk ramp ADA upgrades project. It's a quotation project. Quotes received February 3rd, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Donovan,
Second.
second by Tracy. Any discussion?
Would you like Jim to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about those quotes and the
Yeah.
recommendation?
Jim, this is still kind of through the Safe Routes to School, is that correct? And this is down on 11th?
This is on 11th Avenue, over by the YMCA. I don't think it's part of the Safe Routes project per se, but I think the city has an initiative to complete some of the handicap ramps to comply with the ADA requirements. So they pick out a certain dollar amount that they want to complete. And so we did take bids. We got 4 bids on this one. Corey Jurgens, who is our contractor for the drainage district that Ron asked about. He was low bidder, $29,526. Beck Excavating was second, DeLoss Construction was third, and Holstein Excavating was fourth. So we see the same names on the different projects, but Jurgens was low at $29,526, and that was 101% of our estimate of $29,221. And we would recommend award to Corey Jurgens in that amount.
Jim, how many ADA panels is that are
It's 2 intersections.
just, okay,
So, and I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with the project to know if it's all, 2 on each of the 4 corners
Okay.
or not, but it does do 2 intersections.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
If I may, Jim, has Jurgens done work in town before?
Yes, they have. Over the years, they've done quite a
Can you
few.
kind of fill me in on their most recent completed project and how that went?
I'm not sure, Brian, if I recall the last one, they may have done one of our smaller maintenance projects. I know they've done some of our maintenance projects. Intakes, yeah, and I think that went well. They've worked as a subcontractor in the past on some storm sewer projects. They've done some paving work for us in the past. It's been, maybe 5-6 years since they've done paving. They kind of shifted toward drainage work and smaller projects, and this kind of fits right in. They do a good job. They've done some trail construction for us in the past, and that's gone well.
Very good, appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Okay, if there are no other questions, please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Bulk?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, item 7D is a motion to approve change order number 1 to the 2021 sewer repair project to reflect as-built quantities. Motion made by Tom,
Second.
second by Donovan. Any discussion?
How did the quantities actually change from the as-built? Did we have them do more? Is that what we're talking about, or?
Yeah, I won't have to do jumping
Yeah.
jacks when I
Yeah.
go home. Donovan, this is kind of procedural change on projects. Almost all of our civil projects are unit price contracts. In other words, we provide a list of estimated quantities that we think it's going to take to do the work, and they provide a unit price for those quantities.
Okay.
The contract amount, of course, is the unit price times the number of units completed. When we get to the end, the contract language states that the final contract amount shall be the quantity certified by the engineer times the unit prices bid by the contractor. The change order, the cleanup change order formalizes that process, and so it lists each one. So every project's different. It doesn't necessarily mean that we increase the scope of the project. It just means instead of 12 widgets, we use 13 or something of that nature. And I believe that's the case on this project.
That's what I was wondering, if this was a unit price project.
Unit price adjustment. So you're going to see these on every one of our contracts going forward, that there'll be a change order at the end. Doesn't necessarily represent a change in scope. It's
Okay.
just a formalization of the cleanup of the contract. It makes it easier for the auditors.
Okay, any other questions?
Don't get too far.
Yeah. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's approved. Item 7E is a resolution accepting work on the 2021 sewer repair project.
I'll make a motion, we accept that work.
Motion made by Ron,
Okay.
second by Bill. Any discussion? Please vote by machine.
Nelson, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Orison,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bulk.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7F is a motion acceptance of the following sanitary sewers from developer and make them part of the public sanitary sewer system. 2021 IGL Vault 3 condos, North Sewer and Water Extension. 2019 IGL Vault Condos, Sewer and Water Extension. 2018 IGL Vault Condo Buildings, C and D expansion. 2017 IGL Sanitary Sewer Extension.
I'll move, Mayor.
Reed.
Motion made by Lauren. Second by Tom. And I'd like to have Mark come to the mic and just explain to the people at home, and probably for us,
Sure.
how this entire process works with the acceptance of these sanitary sewers.
On some projects, when the developer's taking the lead and they need to extend the main, they have the ability to do that as a private project under the direction of a licensed engineer. So we work together and we determine that it will be a public main into the future with service lines being hooked up. And as long as they have the job done and inspected and the DNR does the permitting and the engineer does the inspection, then we will take that over and it will now become part of our public sewer main system. We do it fairly often. It's just kind of a procedural thing. We'll have a few other ones we need to catch up on as well. So in the next month or so, you'll see some additional sewer lines come in. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions, any comments? So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 7G is a motion to approve professional services contract with Cruz Kate and Nelson, PC, for the 2022 Fairview Tennis Court replacement. Motion made by Tom,
I'll second it.
second by, Ron got you by a nose.
It's that delay on the
It's the delay.
phone.
Yeah. Second made by Ron. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Brian?
Could Jared come up and kind of give a brief overview of this project again, and maybe Brian Weed can touch on the difference in funding?
Sure. Jared's here now.
Yeah, so this is a CIP item. We've talked about replacing the Fairview tennis courts. And this is we have a 2080 agreement with the school to split any cost for major repairs or replacement to those tennis courts. We kind of changed the scope of the project a little bit in our CIP, and we've discussed that from doing just an overlay, an asphalt overlay, at the direction of some tennis court companies that really gave us some advice that it probably wouldn't hold up that well in the long run. So we decided to kind of switch gears and move to a more permanent solution in a post-tension concrete court. And so that's where we have requested additional funds in the CIP for FY23. So.
And this is a shared.
And
with-
Brian, as
Yep.
Go ahead.
Jared, so, yeah, thank you. And Jared, my understanding from the committee of the whole meeting is we had funds budgeted for this project originally as an overlay.
Correct.
We now have kind of revised the project potentially, but you had mentioned kind of the benefit to the community being that although this is I guess, total increase that looks substantial, we're cost sharing with the school, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And we have the potential for a grant that we have applied for, is that correct?
Yep. That'll be the next item on the agenda is to submit a Wellmark application. Yep.
And then if you could refresh me, what were the engineers advising us? Potential, was it 4 to 5 years if we did the original plan, whereas this new post-retention could add, was it approximately 15 to 20 years of longevity? Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. So it's been overlaid with asphalt once, and it's showing the concrete, the cracks from the concrete underneath. And in talking with several tennis court construction companies, that those cracks and those bird baths and those things would appear within the next 3 to 5 years with another overlay.
And Jared, didn't you say at the committee of the whole meeting that you've talked with some schools or park districts in the area that have utilized this new surface and they haven't really had any maintenance?
Yep, so there's several courts up in Spirit Lake that have utilized this post-tension concrete. Those are currently 20 plus years old, and they've had very little maintenance. They still look darn near brand new. So we feel this is the best option to go. And now that we're getting into more of the design phase and getting ready to bid that project out, we need an official agreement with Cruz Kate Nelson to do that. So.
And then Jared, one more thing just for clarification.
Yep.
So then the idea here would be for although increase in the budget, if you on paper looked at it, there should be cost savings because we might have 3 or 4 of the original project needs, whereas if we do this for an additional, increase, although not doubling or tripling, we're going to see the return in our longevity and maintenance, correct?
Yep, that's
Or at least
correct.
That's what we believe and hope.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, any
I
other,
have,
Donovan?
just for clarification here, I know these tennis court companies that are coming in and bidding this. I guess what is Cruz Kate Nelson's role going to be in this? Because they're going to have I know the tennis court people are gonna have a design, this is what we're gonna do. To do it, are they actually going to engineer something prior to them, or are they gonna be the ones that are gonna pool up the bids or send it out, or I guess what the role is?
No, I'll let
on
Jim
this
speak
bid
to
of-
that a little bit, but we've been in contact with those folks on specs, and Jim's done some of that work, so.
Sure. So Donovan, yeah, because of the scope of the project, we'll have to bid it. It has to be competitively bid. So we'll lay it out. We're addressing the slope issues right now. The courts right now slope from the net to the backcourt, and typically you'd like them to slope side to side in the tennis world. So we're looking at those types of things. So we'll set grades. We'll draw it up, lay it out, we'll design it, and then the post-tensioning, they have some latitude in that, in how they space the cables. You need to have a certain force applied, and depending on your thickness and width, is the number and spacing of the cables. And we'll lay that out so that we get bids that are apples to apples type systems. And then they come in with their acrylic coatings on the concrete. They may or may not subcontract the actual placement of the concrete to a sub. A lot of these guys will come up, they'll set the forms, they'll lay out the cables, do all the prep work, and then they'll hire somebody to actually place the concrete and finish it. And then they come in and post-tension right away. The idea is to put that slab in compression. Concrete cracks because it wants to shrink. And if it doesn't have a joint in it to allow relief, it just cracks wherever it gets stressed up. And in a slab this big, it'll crack all over the place. So in the post-tensioning, they put cables in there, and those cables actually pull the edges together toward the center and keep that slab in compression, and that's what controls the cracks. That's what gives it the longevity. That's what the specialty contractor does, has the equipment to post-tension those cables and do that work. And then they apply the acrylic coatings on the surface, and that may or may not be the same guy. And then they put the fence up too. So we'll put that whole package together, take bids, talk to the bidders, make sure that, their references check out, and then we'll recommend award, just like we do the other projects.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. So, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 7H is a motion to approve submission of Wellmark large grant application for Fairview Tennis Court project for up to $100,000.
I'll make that one.
Motion made by Donovan.
I'll second that one.
Second by Tracy. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 7I is a motion to approve the application process for U-Step funding of $77,160 for traffic light controller replacement project as recommended by Bolton and Menk.
I'll make a motion on that, Mayor.
Motion made by Ron. Second by Tom. Any discussion?
We don't have anybody here from Bolton and Mink. I don't see. Mark, could you
Yeah.
kind of give the scope? I know we've talked about this for a couple of years on doing the traffic control down there.
This may take a little while, so I apologize, but I'll try to be as clear as possible. So, the traffic light controllers in downtown Spencer were put in 1987, and the parts are obsolete. So we've identified them for the last 5 years to be on the CIP and to move them up through the process. As we got a little closer, it was determined that the style of system that we had, that maybe that's kind of an early adaptive system that adapts to the traffic flow. There was some different options, and we as staff said, I don't think that we're probably qualified to make that decision of what we need for what type of equipment. So we engaged Bolton and Mink with the traffic engineer to make a recommendation for that. It's a kind of a hybrid system, halfway between an adaptive system and a time system. One of the things that'll really be beneficial to the downtown pedestrians and our robust downtown district right now is the ability to have push buttons for pedestrian crossing. So, excuse me. So as we moved into the project, of course, there's no free lunch, and the cost continues to go up. And we had an initial budget early on of quite a bit less, but it was identified to be $275,000. Out of that $275,000, there was an Iowa Clean Air Attainment Program, which if you could quantify a reduction in natural or gas emissions because of a more efficient time system, there was this grant available, and that was an 80-20 grant. So the grant, we were awarded that grant, and things were going along well, and we had a city cost identified. Our share was $56,000. Well, then during the design project and through some different scenarios, it was identified that the push button locations on the poles were no longer going to be viable because you have to have like the post with the flat landing area where a handicap or an ADA accessible post could be on that flat landing area, which substantially changed the scope of the project. Then it was concrete and posts, and you're familiar with the ones when you're in a larger city, and it'll be closer to where you roll up. So now all of a sudden the budget was $360,000, and we hadn't planned on that because remember the early grant was for considerably amount less. Well, Bolton and Mink did a nice job with contacting the Iowa DOT to make a U-Step application. So a U-Step application is an urban state traffic engineer program, and that's a 45-55 split. And not only would it be just for and it was a little new to the district when you start speaking about just for pedestrian push buttons, but we were able, through them and through Bolton and Mink, to be able to make this application that they prepared for the rest of the remainder from the 219 up. So, long story short, and I probably rambled, it increased the city's cost if we're granted the U-Step grant, $7,450 for a total of $63,450. So that's still under our initial CIP number. We haven't been granted. We didn't receive the grant yet, but through initial conversations, it looks good. So. Sorry, it's a little more complicated. I was glad I made some notes ahead of time because I wouldn't have been able to rattle that off the top of my head. So,
And Mark, thank you for explaining another government acronym to us, U-Step.
if we,
Very good.
well, you know, as a government teacher, you taught us we have to remember those. So.
That's what Google's for now. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
So if we get this grant, how far away are we from implementing this project? So what if we don't get this grant?
Then the cost goes up that additional amount.
And are we still doing the project?
I think we'll have to. We'll have to talk about how we'd fund it, but we certainly would recommend it because the parts are no longer available for the controllers that are there, and the last time they were fixed, they took the circuit board out because you couldn't get a new circuit board and soldered it in the field to make the connection and the repair. So can I sit here and say, Donovan, yeah, we'll have to come up with some program. Maybe we change the scope of the project. Now keep in mind, these are project estimates. We haven't gone out to bid in a unstable bidding environment. So, but it's planned for the summer, and it's needed for sure. So,
Yep.
good.
Okay. Yeah, Bill?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've got a question, for Mark, and I heard him say about the landing areas for, wheelchair ADA folks. Does that mean we have to, redo every one of the intersections?
We will not have to redo every one of the intersections, but we will have to cut over and get power over to the poles. And most of them have the 5x5 landing area that's compliant.
Okay. Well, the reason I brought that up is that I know that Jared, or Mark, one of you, have in your CIP of replacing the trees downtown. And that was my question, if we're gonna be tearing up the sidewalks, should we just go ahead and move that CIP up and get those trees replaced while they were, putting these controllers in? That was my question.
I don't think that they're related, even though they're in the same area. I think that the tree replacement project could be independent very easily. And
That was a
we,
good question, thank you.
yeah, and would let Jared clarify that, because that's his project, so.
I don't see Jared rushing to the mic to clarify at this point. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 8, department head reports. Planning Department. Alec?
Good evening, everyone. For department report here, I'm going to hit you with the annual report from the planning department. I did get that out to you, so I'll just hit on the highlights of it. Throughout 2021, we did a total of 212 permits, valuation of $16.8 million. Single-family residential dwellings that were created in 2021 were at 9. The average cost is in there. We were a little bit lower than 2020, but that's based on the valuations we were given. In 2021, multifamily residential dwellings, we had 3 created. And the industrial buildings, 7 were built up. Looking at public buildings on that side of the industrial side, we had 1, which is the wastewater treatment building. 6 buildings were demolished throughout that year. Our zoning board of adjustment met a total of 9 times. We have a breakdown of all the variances there if you wish to get into any of them, but they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. 2021 for planning and zoning, we had a plethora of different zoning questions come up and a few rezones as well. All good things for the future development of Spencer, that these things are being considered. Going into historic preservation, this is one thing that we have to meet for our CLG requirements, that I get this information to you folks. Your HPC met 8 times throughout the year of 2021. We did complete the Grand Avenue Commercial Historic District Design Guidelines during that time. The Spencer's 150-year celebration, we took part in that and hosted 5 lectures throughout throughout June. Those were well received and well attended. They are recorded and it can be found on our city websites and YouTube channels, as well as in the library. We also did go for a CLG grant for a second floor accessibility study and to also hold the summit. We were unsuccessful in holding the 2023 summit. However, they did extend that grant to us, which we discussed at the last meeting. Those are all the requirements for the CLG annual report I'll be turning in. If you have any questions about that, take them when I'm done here. Getting back into some of the planning things. With the help of the fire department, we conducted 7 substandard housing inspections. Of those 7, 4 were marked unsafe to occupy. 2 properties have resolved and met minimum conditions to be pulled out of that standing, and we have 1 property left outstanding, but they are doing work to address the concerns that were identified in those inspections. moving on to our nuisances, I won't get too much into these, but of the 53 complaints that we had received, only 6 are active at this time, and they are working towards bringing them into compliance. During the grass vegetation cleanups, of the 344 properties that we posted throughout the summer and spring, 53 were abated by contractor. The trees, when we went out to do the west side of town, 346 properties were notified to prune/trim. A good majority of them did, in fact, bring them into compliance. Only 24 were abated by city contractor. And that is everything I have for you on the annual report. If you have any questions, let me know.
Alec, what, the tree trimming, those 24 properties that we took care of, do you have any idea what the cost was for those?
Off the top of my head, I do not have that cost for you. I'm sorry. I do have it. We have put it into finance, and I can get that sent to you.
Thank you.
The next week or so.
Any other questions for Alec? Thanks. Okay. Library, Sarah Beth.
Good evening. Update on the HVAC project at the library. We're down to just a few things left. Woodman Control was here on January 24th to check that valve that they weren't sure it was working properly. He wired it back up and it is working, but he did note some other issues. The boilers weren't, one of the boilers was low on water, and then the second boiler was struggling to keep up. So we have contacted Crier and Blaine about coming back to check those. And then once the boilers are back up and running, we can, I suppose, consider this part of the project done and get rid of the temporary electric furnace that we have done in the children's area. Hiring, we've got some positions moving through. Obviously, the board offered me and I accepted and started on January 17th officially as director. On January 31st, Kayla Schlichty accepted and started as the youth services librarian. Her former position was teen librarian, so she'll be in charge of the children's stuff now, and Jessica has just gotten the job description and posting all ready to go, so we'll be advertising that. The trust received a grant through ARP Humanities through the American Library Association for $10,000, and we'll be using that this spring and summer. We're commissioning Chad Elliott to create a mural that will be placed above the electric fireplace in the magazine section of the library. It's going to be a nice big one. And then to go along with that, we'll have a reception and concert with Chad and try and get some special groups in there. Specifically, we'll be inviting the Hope Haven group, and then we're going to reach out to our newly appointed, well, not our newly established LGBTQ plus teen group to see if we can get some volunteers for that. The library has just started offering Wi-Fi hotspots this month. Those are pretty slick and easy to use. You just have to be 18 years of age and have a good standing library account. So, and then those will be subject to fines if they're late, and so the policy has been all worked through with the library board. And then another point of interest this month on Sunday the 20th, we'll be hosting Diana Coppin. She and her sister have just written a book about their aunt's experiences working with the civil rights movement. So on the 20th at 2 o'clock that day, she's going to come and give a presentation about that.
Okay. Any questions? Thanks. Fire Department, Chief John.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and council members at home. For the month of January, we saw 29 fire runs, included a couple of minor fires, as well as a couple of oven fires. We also ran a mutual aid call with Fostoria for a fire. We had 33 EMS calls, including chest pains, seizures, difficulty breathing. We had 8 positive COVID cases as well during that time, as well as a couple of pregnancies. Our in-house ambulance ran 11 calls, majorly featuring falls and falling victims of the elderly, as well as stomach pain, pneumonia. Our special duty calls, which always is great, as Catholic school days, meeting and greeting the children and welcoming them to school. Burning of the greens, something fantastic to be a part of with our park district. Great job by them. We also got a chance to do burning of the ditch lines for the city. And we also had a chance to help a homeowner retrieve some property that was in an elevated position. So in other words, somebody threw something on a roof and we helped bring it down.
You got a cat.
Yeah, no, hey, it's not a cat this time. You know, there's never been a skeleton in a cat or in a tree, that's all I'll say. Let's go a little bit further. Training. Our training, we broke it down a little bit different this year. For the total fire department did CPR, bloodborne pathogens, as well as communications. Communications are very important, and it's also a mandatory training session for all fire departments throughout the state of Iowa. So that was a really good one, and it was put in by an in-house instructor. They did really well. From the EMS side of things, we did a lifting and moving of patients, as well as back injury prevention, which was well attended, and we enjoyed that as much. For our Fire 1 classes that we're teaching, and by the way, there's classes going on right now as well, all the Fire 1s passed their hazardous material tests, written as well as their practicality of it. During the month of January, they saw building construction, fire dynamics, as well as an SCBA confidence course used. From the EMS and the EMT students that are attending school, ambulance operations, splinting, trauma, and OBGYN are only a few of the things that they attended, and that's what's going on with your fire department at this time.
Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
and have a
Chief.
great evening.
Police Department, Chief Warburton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The month of January had the Spencer Police Department responding to 761 calls for service, and we performed 27 arrests. This month, the Clay County Sheriff's Office, Spencer Fire, and the Police Department met with the First Responders Foundation to go over some free training opportunities for the department. I'm pleased to announce that on the August 23rd and 25th, the Spencer Police Department will have resiliency training for our officers, for each officer. And we're looking to start a free peer support group as well. Secondly, the department also transitioned to a national incident reporting report for the department. Took some extensive training over 3 days with command staff. This form replaces our current incident reports. This was done to conform with the new UCR requirements for the state, and it also has some benefits to ease with transmission to the federal government as well. And lastly, our communication center, we're in dire need here of 2 dispatchers. We're still trying to fill our 2 dispatch openings. So due to an injury within the department, as well as the 2 vacancies, we're running that communication center 24/7 with only 5 employees. So right now, I'm putting the call out, looking for a dispatcher from 4 p.m. to midnight, Tuesday through Saturday, and midnight to 8 a.m. Friday through Tuesday. Starting wage is $20.51 an hour plus benefits. So if anybody knows of anybody, put a shot out. We sure could use some applicants. So that's all I have. Any questions? Have a good night.
Thanks, Chief. Public Works, Mark.
Good evening again. Last month, of course, we had a winter storm that we worked through. We always do a kind of a post-storm follow up and meet with the lead folks with that and review any things that may be able to be changed. With the milder geez, my sheet's dropping. With the milder winter conditions, when it wasn't subarctic outside, we were outside and still continue to do a lot of fence line maintenance at the airport. That's been completed, but the wastewater treatment plant, that farm field, there's a lot of perimeter fence there that the street division works on when weather conditions allow, removing volunteer trees, mulberries and so forth. Also, we'll be doing the same south of the Southern Point Apartments. There's the farm ground that the city of Spencer and SMU are combined with on ownership in the CRP acres. Notice some volunteer trees coming in there, so they'll work on those. We're also working on another ditch cleaning plan or small project. That's right behind Southern Point as well. That'll just be an in-house project that we're receiving quotes on, and we plan to hopefully do that in the next few weeks. At the central garage, the facility is 22 years old or 42 years old. We're having some plumbing issues, so concerned about the cast iron under the floor. We dug a hole in the floor today, going to install a new clean out, try to do some aggressive cleaning with that cast iron, possibly consider some lining options, but we'll know more as we get some of the material moved. Also, we're pouring concrete, just happens to be inside at the same location. The trench drains were falling in a little bit on part of the truck shop area, so we have part of the floor cut out, installing new trench drains there, painted barricades. We've moved our sign room and created a tool room for a more of an organized, smoother operation during the construction season. The signs are now stored in a non-heated area. This is kind of one that is a little odd, but we did send out a letter and copied the mayor and council in. I'd like to mention that we're having some sewer issues with adult wipes and baby wipes in the sewer lines. We had another call over the weekend, so that's 3 within probably a week and a half or so. So those products, although they may say flushable, are certainly not, do not degrade in the line and cause sewer line issues. May not be one of the most fun topics, but it's kind of high on our list right now. So we'll try to kind of improve public awareness and maybe some type of informational campaign with that. The office is always super busy this time of year, as you folks know as well with the meetings you've been going to. So we've been working on budgets, vehicle specs, equipment specs. The wastewater treatment plant roof was damaged with that strange storm in December. The insurance adjuster was there just this week or last week, I guess last Wednesday, and he called me today or sent an email both regarding that insurance claim on the roof. The rubber roof came loose and came up, so right now it's being kind of pinched down with 2x4s and screws to hold that down. We worked on the year-end reports. We had safety meetings, treatment agreements. We've been reviewing treatment agreements. Public Works and the building department have a weekly meeting that we review projects and try not to double up. It's a half-hour meeting, hopefully, when it works out, but it's every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And we review some additional, possible building projects, and there was a couple of economic development leads that we kind of worked through that level. Also, we met with the DOT on this proposed project in town. So that is all.
Okay.
Too much, probably.
No. Any questions for Mark?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Parks and Recreation, Jared?
Good evening. So you heard some about the Fairview tennis court items already. Some of the other things we've been working on are the aquatic center. We got the pool heater in place today. We received that. We still need to go through some hookups and hook up the some piping. We did notice there were some existing pipes there that were cracked that will need to be replaced, so that'll be as we install that, just a little additional cost to that project there, but needs to be replaced. Working with Jessica on our seasonal positions here for the summer. And so we'll be putting those out fairly soon, working on the job descriptions for anything from camp host, mowing, just to a seasonal technician there. So we'll deal with that. We'll work with Dan and Brian on setting up a time to discuss one of the goals from our goal setting session as far as splash pad and the campground, the aquatic center, and that sort of stuff here soon as well. Guys are working. They'll be doing quite a bit of tree work as it warms up here, with tree removals and stuff, dead ones in the parks, trimming, those sort of things. They will be also attending a pool operator certification course next week in Sioux City to have both get certified there. Also working on ordering materials for spring already. So ball field materials, chalk, rock, starting to get our plants for downtown ordered, those things to have ready to go in the spring. And then finally, tonight we did receive some donations for the Stolly Trail from Daybreakers Kiwanis as well as High Noon Kiwanis too. So we received $1,000 from each of them for the Stolly Trail out there. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And High Noon is here, so.
Oh, good.
Andrew?
Yeah, I was glad to donate $1,000 to that project. I know we got a letter from Bob Rose and a couple other gentlemen here, and so love to.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, and we'll get a photo of that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be great.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Coming.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Golf course, Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With the warmer temperatures coming up this week, I'll probably be outside cleaning up tree branches from the heavy winds that we've had over the winter. Also evaluate some of our sand traps to see how much additional sand we're going to have to bring back in early this year. And I will also be working with Jessica to start looking at hiring some of our clubhouse staff for the season. We're getting closer. We could be like a month away, maybe. You just never know. But, yeah, I know. Otherwise, I think you've all got my update on Sundays. And if anyone else at home would like to be updated on that information, you can visit our website at spencermunigolf.com and check out the blog on there.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. City Attorney's report, Don?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Activity in January is actually less than average. Nothing alarming or concerning particularly. Worked with the police department on a couple of things. The chief is very aggressive in dealing with abandoned cars, and we had 4 of them we were able to ultimately dispose of. Also working with the chief and civil service on ways that we perhaps will be able to attract additional candidates for the department. That's become a real challenge under the current circumstances. Had some work on finalizing these ordinances that you've all been working on. Worked a little with the library people. Of course, the cardboard contract that you approved tonight. And we had some zoning issues. I would make a comment more about the state level. The Iowa legislature is in session, so no one is safe. We're going to want to monitor some things. You've heard, I think, from Brian that they're with their tax proposals, they're perhaps eliminating the local option sales tax, just making a statewide tax. That should be a wash, but once the legislature's in full control, we worry about what might happen in years to come. Couple things I noted that are being talked about are limiting train length. Might have some benefit to our community. The idea being to limit the time that the crossings are blocked. Somewhere, some mayor removed somebody from a board that wasn't well received, and now there's legislation to eliminate that power. And finally, as you've probably seen, the governor's emergency COVID proclamations that have been in effect now for almost 2 years will expire a week from tomorrow. Any questions?
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. We do have our Human Resources Director here. Do you have a report that you would like to make or have any comments that you'd like to make?
Usually mine are pretty related to the organization itself. Unless you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Okay.
They're kind of internal processes.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. Didn't want to put you on the spot, but okay. Okay. Engineers report. Jim?
Reported on everything.
You're right.
And there are no questions for Jim, right?
Start over, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. City managers report. Dan?
Couple things. Last week, Jessica, Brian, and I were down for the meeting of our health insurance trust. That renewal is going to come in really, really low, so that's nice news. Also, we're got a lot of meetings with a lot of people on budget and a lot of numbers to go through in the next few weeks. So it's going to be pretty much all budget going forward for the next few weeks.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? Okay. Under the mayor's report, just three things. First, we had a couple of very long meetings last week. One was due to Brian Weave. Just wanted to throw you under that bus, Brian. Actually, no. Actually, great thanks to Brian for preparing for the meeting last Monday night with regard to the CIP budget, and to the department heads as well. They put in a great deal of work on this, and our hats are off to them because of the work that they do. And then last Wednesday night, we also spent a couple hours plus in a goal-setting session, and Dan was able to get Mark Jackson, who's the city administrator from Story City, to come and facilitate that meeting. And I know that the department heads had a meeting with Mark in the afternoon and had good conversation with Mark, and then the elected officials and some others were here in the evening and had good conversation with regard to goal setting. And we had, I think, Mark did a very nice job of getting everyone's input into what those goals should be. And basically what the council came up with are three primary goals to work on for the next year or so. And that's the aquatics center, a plan for what to do with the 100 acres that was acquired west of town, and then a plan for economic development on the north side of Spencer, the Highway 71 corridor. Those are the three primary goals. There were several other goals that were discussed as well, and some that maybe weren't on the radar for some people, but they are now. And I think that we have a lot on our plate. I think the department heads have a lot to consider and to start planning for as a result of that goal-setting session. So thanks to everybody who took part in that and who planned for that. And then lastly, on Saturday, you may have noticed that downtown Spencer, shopping on the south side of Spencer, may have been a little bit more crowded than usual, and that was due to the state speech contest that was held at Spencer High School. And I had the opportunity and the good fortune to actually work at the, I don't know if work is the right term, volunteered to work at the state speech contest, and it was really fun to see all of the kids who participate in that event. There were 55 schools that were represented, well over 1,000 students, and probably at least twice that many spectators at Spencer High School. So it was a great thing for the community to show off the facilities of our high school, but also I received so many comments, and other people did as well, about Spencer itself. And I know that those people, we've talked a lot about this, spent money in the community. And I think we put on a good show at the state speech contest, but the community itself really rose to the occasion as well. So my hat's off to them. Okay, item 12, council and committee reports.
We have several things coming up, as you can see. The list is pretty long. We have a committee of the whole on Valentine's Day at 5:30, limited to an hour, so some husbands aren't sleeping in the guest room. Just saying. Finance committee, that's gonna be on food trucks. Finance committee on the budget on, we said earlier, on the next day, on the 15th at 2 p.m. and then on the 17th at 7:30 a.m. Both finance committee meetings, public works committee meeting on the 21st at 6 p.m. and a council meeting at 6:30 p.m. that night. And we also need to schedule a committee of the whole for the week of the 21st, sometimes to go over the budget.
So do you need that tonight, Dan, or are you gonna?
I think we need it pretty soon, don't we?
I think so.
I mean, if people want to get back with Teresa on their availability, I know Tom will be gone. We can all join him in the islands. Get away from the weather, but otherwise, if you want to just look at what works that week and let Teresa know, that'd be fine. And it'll probably rival last Monday night's meeting for length, so keep that in mind.
We can put out a poll tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Brian, so I'm also on an island, but a long ways from Tom.
Oh, that's right. So we have 2 islands we could go to.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Item 13, I'd entertain a motion to approve the bills and claims. Motion made by Bill.
I'll second.
Second by Brian.
That's me.
Just Bill and Brian. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Woke up. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 14, any other business or opportunity for anyone to come forward and address the council?
I've got one thing, Mayor.
Okay.
Just kind of for the council's going forward on the budget and what kind of the process we'll have is, as we say, next week, the Finance Committee will review the budget on Tuesday and Thursday. Then what we've said is on the 21st, we will, so on the week of the 21st, we'll have a committee meeting of the whole for the first review, and then what we've allowed is that second week of February in case there's additional information or additional things that come out of that committee of the whole. However, due to the timing, what you'll see on the 21st council meeting is a public hearing to set our max levy limit. And so when that comes out, just remember that will be the maximum our rate can be for the certain items. It can always go lower once we adopt that on the 7th of March. But due to our timing of our process this year, we'll have to set that schedule or set that hearing on the 21st for March 7th. On March 7th, we'll hold the max levy hearing, and then we'll also set the budget hearing for March 21st, at which point then, like we said, the levy can go down. Just getting where we're at, so I don't know the final resting place of the levy this year or where it's at. We're still kind of calculating that over the weekend. So, but just wanted to let you guys know that, again, if we have anything after the 21st, we may have another meeting the week of the 28th, depending on what comes out of that week of the 21st committee of the whole. But those are the public hearings, and then hopefully hold a hearing on the 21st of March, adopt the budget, and then get that certified to the county in time. So I'll get a written email out in the next day or so, kind of explaining that as well and that. But just wanted to give you guys a kind of the roadmap for the rest of the budget this year.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Tom?
This is something that, I don't know that this has happened since probably when I was in high school or maybe before. But, and if anybody can correct me on this, I'm more than happy to let them do that. Excuse me. But I believe at this time, we have 0 vacancies on Main Street.
Wow.
I've driven up and down Main Street 2 or 3 times. I've talked to Nancy Nave, and I don't think there's an open storefront on Main Street that you can rent right now.
Wow.
You're full, right?
Yes, sir.
It's great.
That's impressive.
That's great news.
That's amazing. I just think that's phenomenal.
Yep. That's good. Yep. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Donovan first, Tracy second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
Boy, did I think Mark was in trouble.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, what is